Welcome back to Tech Tuesday. I'm your host, Jordan Evans. I'm so excited to talk about today's topic because it's coming from the Foresight team. We have a special guest today that actually has not come onto this show yet. And as many reasons I've tried to find to not have him on the show, he managed to find his way on the show. So I'm super excited to talk to this good friend of mine, Steve Moran, the ideas and everything, who started Foresight. And so Steve and Foresight have a new event coming up that we're going to talk about. And so before we get into it, let's run our intro. As I said, you've weaseled your way onto the show. Somehow you did it. So what have you been up to, Steve?
Oh man, I'm so excited about being on this show with you. You are doing an amazing job. I want to start by saying that. Really appreciate the reach and your focus on technology for older people, particularly in the context of senior living. The big thing that we've been working on is something we are calling the Foresight AI Lab. And I'm going to sort of step back for a little bit. Many years I've always been interested in technology, kind of geek out with phones and cameras. I'm surrounded. If you were looking at my messy desk, I've got, I think, four different cameras, a remote, a tablet, all kinds of stuff. So love technology. And many years ago, as we looked at senior living, we started watching robots come on the scene as sort of this this technology marvel that was going to create tremendous labor savings and transform senior living, particularly in the areas of dining and perhaps on floor cleaning. And we didn't really know what else. Turns out that we've had robots for about 7 or 8 years now, and they haven't really lived up to the promise. There are a number of senior living organizations that are using them in the dining services. They're cute. People seem to like them, so there's not really, a resistance to the technology. But I haven't talked to a single operator who's installed robots in their communities and said, these are really terrific because they've saved me an FTE or 2 FTEs or anything. And so it's been really a disappointment. And so technology is doing lots of wonderful things, but that's one that we sort of thought was just going to crush it. It hasn't crushed it. But there is this thing that we call AI, artificial intelligence, that seems to have tremendous promise. And so we're going to do a 2-day gathering. I don't want to exactly call it a conference because it's very different. And I'll talk to you about what that difference is in just a minute. But we're going to do a 2-day gathering in Las Vegas in January, where we are going to explore AI and what it can do for senior living. You want me to keep going?
Well, I have questions. So, I mean, as if for our viewers that have been watching the show religiously, we've done another episode on AI and we've kind of deep dived and there's different types of AI. And before you continue, what are you excited to see and what is your biggest takeaway? And next to that, what is the biggest takeaway you're hoping that attendees get from the Foresight AI Lab?
So for the last 3 weeks, as I'm working on content for this conference, I've been talking to a bunch of different senior living operators who are actually using AI. And one operator, I'm not going to tell you who it is, we haven't confirmed that they're going to speak, I hope they are, is doing probably the most comprehensive thing that I've seen. But people are using AI to create things like, better family portals, so you can actually use AI to let families say things like, tell me about how mom did last week. And it will go to dining services record and the EHR call system records, motion detector sensors, and it will instantaneously take all this information and create a narrative and say, well, mom was up 6 times out of bed the last night, and before that she was up 4 times, and before that it was the night before 3 times, and so we sort of were really watching this carefully. Or mom had a really, really good day. She went to every event that happened, and she seemed really engaged and excited. And so all of a sudden, families get this real time, readable kind of thing that's amazing. I talked to another operator who has all these vendor contracts, and they're trying to figure out whether they're really working for them. And they can take a new vendor contract that would normally take months to get reviewed by their legal department, and they can put it in through AI. The AI will go screen it like a paralegal and tell them what needs to be added or fixed to make it better. I have another operator, a very small operator, who is going to speak at the conference, who uses a HIPAA compliant scribe. And so when she is taking a new resident into her community, there's all this paperwork, and you got to do care plans and all this thing. And so she's got a list of questions. She sits down and she runs this AI scribe. When she's done with this conversation and walking through the question, the tool spits out all her admission documents, a care plan, levels of care. Takes 6 hours of work and gets it all done in about 30 minutes. And of course, there's the stuff we've been talking about that most people have tried, is creating content and writing letters and emails and all that kind of stuff. That's there's actually a lot of art to that. So there are people who are doing it, and a lot of people I've talked to have played with the Chat GPT or Gemini, and they've asked a question. They use it as a search engine, and they kind of come away and say, it's okay, but it's not really that good. But when you have the right prompts and stuff, it's amazing. So I think it can create longer lengths of stay, better programming for residents, healthier residents, dining services, a bunch of stuff there too. So anyway.
It also sounds like optimizing workflow and, just taking which isn't necessarily getting rid of an FTE, but is making you more efficient at spending your time.
Well, sure. And yeah. So one of the things that I this is not there yet, so I'm going to speculate a little bit, but I think we're actually really close. Imagine that every caregiver had carried a little microphone recorder on their shirt, right? And they would go in and they do, help with bathing, dressing, medications, and they just be talking to the resident about, hey, Mrs. Smith, I've got your medications here, and so I want to make sure you take them. And Mrs. Smith says, oh man, I'm not going to take that pill, but I'm going to take everything else. Or let's get in and help you with the shower today. And there's this little this voice recorder that's transcribing all of this. And when they're done with that interaction, it takes all that information, extracts just the relevant data, puts it into the EHR. Now you have a much more complete picture. I just, the possibilities. And so you're right. Maybe it doesn't save an FTE, but it gives you better documentation, gives you a much better chance of then using that data to create a better care plan for that resident.
It makes the FTE you have a little bit more effective.
Maybe a lot more effective.
Which is the role of technology, not to replace people, which people are always, it goes back to, and I've said this before, the Will Smith movie, like AI is not here to replace us. AI doesn't work without us. It is there to help us. It is another tool, like a hammer. It's just a way, way, way cooler hammer. That finds the nail, as opposed to you just spending all this time working around the task that you need to get done. You can work more efficiently with this tool. And so I love that you have this lab where people get to see how other people are using this tool. I always talk about the hammer, because I've seen some people do some wacky things with a hammer, and things that I was like, oh, I never thought you could do that with a hammer. And it's until someone shows me, oh, you do that, and then someone says, or someone shows me a way that you don't use a hammer. And so I'm excited for this experience where people get to learn the do's and don'ts and how other people are have succeeded or have failed with using AI. So let's talk about the fails. Have you seen any flops with using AI? Any AI flops where someone was like, this is a perfect way of not using AI, specifically in this space?
So, I how do I answer that question? I think that I think I'm not sure I'm going to get the question right. I'm right, so I've got the answer right. But I think that AI. I think we just don't know where we can and can't use it. I think I will say that one of the things that I worry about. I mean, people worry about is sort of privacy, right? But what is the hammer? What is the new way to use AI that you wouldn't think about? Um, I don't know. I mean, I think we don't even know the answer to that, right? I'll give you a good example of one of the things I already talked about is the idea to use it for contract review. I wouldn't have thought about that. There are people who are talking about using AI to do to build better learning centers. So you've got all these policies and procedures. What policies and procedures do you have in there that are obsolete? Who's gonna, who wants to sit and go through hundreds of pages of policies and procedures? And maybe as importantly, what's in there? What do you need in there that's not there that you should have? And then once you get it, how can you fix it? Somebody out there's got a tool that will take if you have a inspectors come in and you've got deficiencies that you've got to create a plan of correction for, it'll go in and create your plan of correction for it. Talk about saving hours and efforts and make sure you're getting. It's just mind-boggling. We just don't know. There's so much potential.
I love that. So, what is the layout? You said 2 days in the lovely Las Vegas. Are you thinking people are staying in one place? Is there going to be a bunch of travel? Like, get into the weeds a little bit.
You
Show
bet.
us into this wonderful idea that you have.
Yeah, so I'm going to actually step back and talk about the concept. We've been exploring doing a conference for about 18 months. We've been talking about it, trying to figure out the right conference. But as you know, in the senior living industry, there are somewhere between 250 and 300 conferences that take place every single year, which is shocking, right? I mean, that's like one every single day, and of course, you could never go to all of them. And they're all there's a lot of difference, and I love conferences, so I'm not tearing down anybody's conference at all. But they all kind of mostly have the same format. There are a couple of exceptions. You go in and you have a keynote or two, you have a breakout or two, you have some kind of a trade show floor. The one thing that we have come to realize is that because you have these little sessions, you never really come away. I mean, you might get something, but there's not enough that really you get a deep dive on anything where you walk away from that conference and say, oh, I have a plan to go out and do this thing for my organization. I now know how to do this. I now have a playbook. And so as we've looked at it, we said, what can we do conference wise where participants actually walk away and say, that's amazing. I know how to go out and make my culture better. I know how to implement technology better. I know how to do sales and marketing better. I would say that the Smash conference is probably the one conference that exists, and the Senior Living Dining Conference. So the two conferences, I think, really do a nice job of sort of doing deep dives where you can go in and have new recipes that you can use to improve the operation. And so that's always been our goal. And over the last, and so we've been thinking about this. And then over the last few weeks, I started talking to people who were doing some amazing things. And it's like the world of senior living needs to know about this. So it's going to sort of look like three things. We will do a couple of one or two keynotes. So that'll be pretty traditional. There will be some vendors there. It'll be much more casual with the vendors.
Good.
And there will be some vendor presentations, maybe more than you'd normally think would be appropriate for a conference. But there's some vendors who are doing some really, really interesting things. And their job is to come and teach people how their products are making a difference and show them how to use them in ways that are educational and not sales. And we're going to be really, really strict about this. So I expect if you come to our Foresight Labs, you're going to walk away, no matter where you are in this AI journey. If you haven't done anything with AI except play with it for Google searches, you're going to walk away from the conference and say, okay, here are 2 or 3 areas I'm going to go tackle next week when I get home because I know how to do that. If you're advanced and you're doing some amazing things, you're going to get a chance to talk to other professionals who are doing other amazing things. And you're going to say, man, I never even thought of doing that. I'm going to go back and add that to my AI repertoire. So it will be a remarkable experience that will change the lives of people who are there. It'll change their organizations. It really will be transformative.
That sounds like a lab. I mean, the fear going to any conference is like, oh, I'm going to get sold upon. Everyone's gonna ascend upon me and I'm gonna get sold upon. But having a educational experience around a product and kind of saying like it's the only time I really like being sold. Like when I get to walk through Costco and see them do things with knives, I'm like, this is fun. I'm not gonna buy your knife, but I mean, if I need knives, I actually did buy the knife one time because it was like, okay, it cut through a penny. I think that's really cool. But not doing it in a kitschy way, but having something that's this is what we're doing. This is the awesome product that we bring to the table, and this is what you can do in your community. That is the value of having a space that has such innovative innovative vendors that are really looking to push what it means and to care and change and really innovate this space. So that is awesome. January, that is actually my birthday month. So I'll be excited to be in Las Vegas and see all the awesome things that are coming.
Yeah.
What else do you want to share?
The one other thing I want to say, so let me talk about why Las Vegas.
Yeah.
There are a couple or 3 reasons. One is it's our first event, and so we need a lot of flexibility in terms of rooms and hotel space. So that makes it really easy. At that time of year, it's a place where particularly at this time of year, the weather is generally pretty good. And you can get there from just about any place in the country with a direct flight. So, and the last thing is that if you have looked at the CES conference, that's one of the biggest conferences in the world. There are about 180,000 people. It's all things technology. There's a lot of stuff that applies to senior living. And you've looked at that CES conference and said, oh man, I'd really like to go to that conference. This is a perfect opportunity because it's the week before the AI lab, the Foresight AI lab. So you just stay over the weekend and you can go gamble or go see shows or go hike out at Red Rock, which is a beautiful place at that time of the year to go out and get outdoors and then enjoy this conference and walk away ready to transform your organization.
Well, that sounds like a great professional, great excuse to go out there and learn some more about tech. Go to CES and then go to this Foresight AI lab. Spend the weekend going and seeing nature. I'm not a gambler myself, but if you want to gamble, go and do that too. And yeah, that's only a great 2 weeks.
Yeah, it should be. It should be just outstanding. And can I add one other thing here, Jordan? Because it seems like every day as I talk to people, one of my questions is, who do you know who's using AI in senior living? If you are using AI in senior living, I'd love to talk to you. If you know somebody who's doing some really interesting things in senior living with AI, I'd love to know who that is and have conversation. We're still actively working on the content piece of it, and we just want to create the very best experience.
Well, luckily, we have had some wonderful guests on this show, even in the past weeks, that have used AI in such cool ways, from Nobi to Witlingo, doing amazing things from fall prevention to user engagement and resident engagement. I mean, there's so many ways that you can use AI. It'll be really exciting to see the whole world in this one little lab. And I love the lab. I might come with like my lab coat.
Oh yeah, we ought to put lab coats on everybody who's on the team and helping, right? I love that. That's a brilliant idea.
Well, Steve, you got anything else to share before we close out?
So I think I think the biggest thing is that AI really has this amazing opportunity to transform every senior living organization. Uh, there's there is a lot of talk about the invasiveness of it. I for one, believe that the idea of having privacy is already lost. I know I have at least one team member who still really works hard to do that, and I have great respect for that. But I guess I've sort of assumed that everybody kind of knows everything about me that they can possibly know or want to know, and so I think we just end up embracing this technology as a way to improve the lives of people who live and work in senior living. Of course, Jordan, as part of the organization, our driving mission is to make the lives of people who live and work in senior living better. And I don't know that I have ever seen a kind of technology. I don't know. What do you call it? It's not a platform. What do you call it? A new thing that has so much promise. I think that it has the ability, of course, it makes things like sales and marketing, right, creating content much easier. It has the ability to substantially increase length of stay, which has real consequences in a positive way to the bottom line for operators and occupancy. One of the things I'm actually most excited about is that as we use AI to help us better understand what's working and not working for residents, and we provide better care, not only are we going to extend length of stay, but we're going to keep people out of the hospital. And not only are we going to keep people out of the hospital, we're actually going to reduce the cost to the healthcare system to the tune of what I think will be billions and billions of dollars. And right now, senior living does an amazing job of already doing that, but we're not very good at quantifying it, telling that story. So on Friday of this week, I'm going to get a little plug for Foresight TV. On Friday of this week, I've got the CEO of Scan Healthcare, the largest Medicare Advantage program in the country, as my guest. And one of the things I want to talk to her about is how do we, as a senior living industry, how do senior living operators have conversations with her and with health plans and say, you know what? My one building has kept people out of hospitals, and we've saved your contracted hospital $5 million this year. Maybe you ought to give us $500,000 of that so we can keep doing this on a better way. So, and think about what that does. You get those kinds of financial savings, and all of a sudden it makes it more affordable for people who could not already live in senior living. Yeah, it could increase profits, but it can also increase access. So the opportunity is massive. You see, you got me on my soapbox here, Jordan.
Well, I was actually going to continue because I believe that all communities that care for people are community assets. That's why I'm such a huge advocate for not-for-profit communities, because if it's a community asset, then it is there to care for people. So that money should go back into the community. But businesses are businesses. That's my own soapbox. But community assets, being community assets like a hospital, like a nursing home, and assisted living that are there to care for people should work together to better care for that community. And so that is just the nature of really community building, and making sure that everyone's making money is also good old capitalism. But on another note, to answer your question about technology, or what to call it. It is a technology. I mean, it's a newer technology that we are looking to wrap our head around. And in the theme of Tech Tuesday, I am glad that we get to wrap our head around it here and have those difficult conversations about what is this thing? Am I just supposed to use this to make my emails sound less snarky? Or can I really use this and integrate this into a space with my residents or with the residents that we care with? And can I make him, do we know that it's not going to jeopardize their safety? Do we know it's not going to jeopardize our security? I mean, those are the tough conversations in any approaching any technology. And so I'm glad that we have a lab full of experiments that other people have done and the takeaways that they've gotten from it. Steve, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yep, you're very welcome. Before you go away, I want to just point out, and I know we've already put it up in the chat, but there's a link in there. You can join our email list. We expect to have the website up by the end of this week. We expect to have likely we'll have our first batch of tickets up at the end of this week. It will be very, very limited. We are limiting the number of ticket sales because we want it to be an intimate experience where you can get to know people, you can learn from people. And so we think that we will sell out, and we will sell out fast. So you should get in there and get your tickets, and it'll be transformative. We want people to walk away from that conference saying, that was the best conference I attended all year. Well, I guess they're not going to say that because it'll be the first conference they attend all year, but they'll say that'll be the best conference I've attended in the last year. And we think we can accomplish that. And this is not to take away from any other conference, because I'm a conference junkie. I love conferences, but we want this to be something really, really special, really, really transformative for your organizations.
And it's not a conference, it's a lab.
It's a lab. Thank you. That's right.
Loves in the labs. Labs are fun, experiments are fun, beakers. And to quote a very famous guy, science is cool. For those that grew up with Bill Nye the Science Guy, science is cool. So, Steve, thanks so much. You've watched another episode of Tech Tuesday where we bring you some of the coolest things out there in senior living. If you have some show ideas, if you have a topic that you want to talk about, please email me. It's right there. This has been Tech Tuesday. I'm your host. We'll see you next Tuesday at 1:30.